Hello and welcome again to part two of this Nagra top tube transistor video. I got interrupted before, so let me just quickly resume what I said. So you guys can just read what I've written down, but there's the old Nagra sound and there's the new Nagra sound. I think the old Nagra sound stopped. You guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing around 2010. That's my guess. And then they got new management, and it went over to a more organic type of sound. And both sounds are really good. And this is the first time where I've actually heard DST where I actually felt like it was the real thing. So try to, if you're getting this brand and Spectral, it would be better having a lower efficiency kind of speaker, because lower efficiency speakers have a tendency of creating more bandwidth, which is more of this type of Nagra spectral sound. So I also have to mention that Nagra, Spectral, Audio Node are the only brands where I can say that all products that they've made the last 20 years are of the highest quality standard. It's more of a matter of type of sound priority that you prefer and speaker combination together with some other small variables that determine whatever sound that you personally prefer. So I mean, I would like to own them all. Currently, I only have Audio Node at a medium level. I would of course like Audio Node at a top level, Spectral at a top level, and Nagra at a top level. But I mean, I earn a regular wage, so that's probably never gonna happen. But you never know. If you keep dreaming, it might happen, or if I win the lottery. But those are like the only three sounds in the hi-fi world where I feel that that's just all the way good. I mean, there are some few other brands that's once in a while make a thing that's awesome, but I wouldn't generally, say that brand does a really good job with all of their products, and all the low, medium, and high products that Nagra, Spectral, and Audio Node do are just remarkably good. And but I'm talking about since around year 2000 and forward. I wouldn't consider anything that Audio Node, Spectral, or Nagra did before that to really be like top class. That I wouldn't consider those brands because a lot has changed the last 20 years in the hi-fi world. So I'm not gonna say here and say that a 1995 Audio Note piece of gear will sound better than anything else from another brand. I won't say that. A lot of has happened within the last 20 years. So I'm gonna stand by that. So I mean, if you want this like Swiss precision type of sound that goes from a very certain type of angle that's just fascinating how it dissects everything, Nagra is for you, and Spectral is more of the like minimalistic, ultimate natural transistor sound. It's difficult to get a hold of. It's a bit of a snobby brand. Very difficult to get a proper idea of what it has to offer, because most stores that have it in stock don't provide a proper listening room for you to really understand what it has to offer. But Spectral is just like the king of transistor. I mean, even Nagra can't really, keep up to that standard. But it sounds almost as good, Nagra, almost. Audio Note, they're in like their own level. I mean, in regards to naturality, they're just like, yeah, they're at their own level. It's just a completely different game. Audio Note are playing, but three different contenders for the top sound in the world, and I generally think that anybody in the world would be happy with these brands. So just letting you guys know that. Now, of course, there are some negative sides of Nagra. Every piece of gear has its negative sides. People that aren't that don't say that it has a negative side, then you know that they're not a really good reviewer. So let me get into the negative sides. Well, there's the price. All of the three brands that I mentioned are really expensive. Nagra is no exception. Yeah, it's like I told you before with the sound too. There's like the two different sounds, and it can be a bit difficult for some people to understand that how different they are, and that's I don't really think that Nagra has communicated that very well, but it's just also really difficult to find a place where you can demo this. A lot like with the Spectral gear. It is a lot better than Spectral in regards to finding a proper room where you can hear this, because Nagra sells more equipment than Spectral. That's pretty obvious from the amount of Nagra gear I've seen compared to Spectral. And then let's get into the sound. I mean, some people will think that Nagra is a bit on the boring, cold, technical, analytical side. So, yeah, if you want the most fun, exciting, natural sound, Audio Note is the way to go, especially in regards to fun, excitement, and all of that. Nagra kind of takes the audio and breaks it apart and show you all the bits and pieces and kind of turns the picture and shows you the different layers. Audio Note doesn't do that. Audio Note has a lot of good detail, really high level detail, but it's just a different way of showing you it. It doesn't have like an overly focused way on looking at detail. I mean, it takes everything into consideration, so it's more of a music flow swing type of sound, Audio Note. And Spectral, I would say that's kind of in between Nagra and Audio Note. I'm generalizing, but just so you guys get an idea of what it is that we're dealing with here. So I've noticed this a lot, and this is a really good tip for you guys. So when you're dealing with this type of equipment, Nagra type of equipment, make sure that you don't create an artificially big room like at a hi-fi show, because this will make the sound a lot more thin, analytical, and hi-fi in the long run, you know? So you want to kind of keep the room that you're in, you know, looking like a normal room that a person is living in, you know? Make it your own. Put some pictures on the wall, not glass pictures. And then go with these like smaller rooms, 20 to 50 square meter rooms maximum. I would more like say a 25 to 35 square meter room, because it keeps the sound more in check. It gives it more of a homey, warm, good response. If you have too much room and there's too much of a distance between the speaker and the back wall behind where you're listening, it will typically get over to a hi-fi mode. So that doesn't only apply to Nagra, but especially to Nagra, which is ultra revealing. You don't want like 10 meters from the speaker and then to the wall behind you. No, you don't want that. That's going to take it off in a hi-fi direction. And some people will like that, but most people won't like that for a long period of time. And then they will go on and try all kinds of cables and DACs and all of that, and still not be able to get what they really want. So just get that dealt with. And point 6 is that it's the best combination of looking good, sounding good, and being practical. But of course not the best like Spectral and audio notes. So yeah, you could kind of say that's a negative thing. But you should also take in consideration that when you have a piece of Nagra gear, it's sensitive to vibration. So you need a piece of rack gear like this. Ideally, you would get a lot more out of the sound. Believe me, if you have like a thin wooden floor, it transfers a lot of vibration, and Nagra gear is pretty sensitive to vibration, and Nagra gear just directly reflects everything that's going on around. Cables, plugs, amps, it will just really tell you everything that's going on. So you could also just park this Nagra gear on a big solid piece of furniture that only costs like a tenth of this. But it kind of aesthetically it belongs to this, and sonically you're getting so much more. It's one of those few things, few exceptions where I would say if I had Nagra gear, I would also choose a piece of furniture like this, because that sense of space and firmness in the bass and control just gets up to an entirely different level, and you would not normally with a piece of normal transistor gear. I'm just going to throw a random one out there, Paslabs, Mark Levinson, whatever, NAD. You wouldn't normally hear a huge difference putting on a piece of gear like this, but when you're dealing with Nagra gear, which is so sensitive, my God, do you hear a big difference. Also with Spectral also, but not quite as much. And actually audio note actually makes a big difference having a piece of gear like this. But try and take that into consideration, because you really want to kill those vibrations, and you want to kill those vibrations in a good way. So I also have to mention that Nagra, I don't find that quite as good as Spectral dealing with primitive music like punk, metal, and some electro music. Okay, I call electro music primitive, so sorry for that. But it's still, a hell of a lot better than most consider hi-fi brands. So yeah, something to take into consideration if you're really a lot into, AC/DC recordings on digital format. You might not want to have Nagra unless you're really good at creating that really good combination of gear. So, and you also want to take into consideration that when you have Nagra tube gear, that you're actually using really good tubes, because standard tubes, not just with Nagra gear but most gear, sound horrible, and Nagra will tell you that. I can't remember if I told you this, guys, before, but if you have a Nagra piece of gear, you can develop many many different types of sound. So that's one of the wonderful and kind of difficult things about Nagra, because it can just go in many different directions because it's just so damn neutral. So it's just so you guys know that it can actually sound pretty horrible sometimes, and many other times it can sound wonderful on all kinds of levels. So it's kind of a what do you call that? An endless puzzle that just goes on forever, where you can just create so many different variations. I mean, let's just say that I had something like let's just say I have something like this, the old Nagra sound with the old Verity speakers. I mean, good solid sound, good in pretty much all aspects. I could suddenly put in this bigger Verity speaker, and I could change the preamp to something that is like a newer Nagra version. Suddenly it's like it totally changes, but in a good way. Very different. So just so you guys know that it isn't like with Macintosh where you get like the stock Macintosh sound and you can only move it this much, and that's a good and a bad thing. So it's some of the most reactive gear ever on the market. So really want to look out for this brand. And yeah, that was basically everything I had to say about this fantastic gear. And if you're ever at a hi-fi show, especially the München show, they have some really good Nagra demonstrations there. Go and listen to that, and just realize that when you're listening to that type of sound, even though it's some of the best Nagra rooms you're going to hear at shows or stores or whatever, just take into consideration that that gear is completely new. That room is very big. There are almost no sidewalls, very big distance to the back wall. So it creates a more hi-fi cool type of sound. And once it's, you've broken in the equipment, know this, it can get a lot more natural, a lot more integrated, a lot more warm. And it's just endless. It's a bit like owning audio note gear. You can do a bit of here, you can do a bit of there, you can move around this and that. There are a lot of different sounds you can create with Nagra, and it's one of the reasons why I consider it so damn good a brand. Some of my friends, I think at least 3 or 4 of them, I think only 3, had Nagra at different levels, different times with different speakers, and I also heard them at different shows, and I've heard a lot of Nagra throughout the years, and I'm really happy that they've actually improved their sound throughout the years, and they've actually managed to crack the code on DSD, making DSD finally sound almost as good as the real normal tracks, but in a different way. So in some ways, it actually sounds better. But overall, I would still say that the audio note way of doing it is better overall. But man, if they can get DSD to sound this good, then you know that it's good gear. So you really owe that to yourself to listen to this piece of gear, and it doesn't take much to completely smash the sound, so it gets destroyed in a way you can't recognize. Only thing it takes is that you activate Wi-Fi and you start using Spotify account or whatever they call these services, streaming services, and then you use it on a standard streamer, that only costs like $1,000, $2,000 or something like that. Man, does it just slaughter the music completely. So you kind of understand why they're going with these, these humongous, awesome turntable setups, and why they're choosing their own DSD material and their own DAC and stuff like that, because you want it really good at the source end when you're dealing with Nagra. Okay, you want the best source you can get a hold of when you're dealing with Nagra. Now, one thing that I miss, that I haven't tried, I've tried so many different thousands of combinations of gear. One thing I really truly regret not having tried, I did try to find this combination, but I would really like to hear a top audio note CD player and DAC connected to a Nagra, or even a Spectral setup. that would just be awesome. So something to dream about. But yeah, that was all for this edition, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I used a lot of time on gathering my thoughts together and thinking about how it stacked up against Spectral, as you can see here, and Macintosh, and you can really feel that they're really, there is a lot going on with this type of sound. And when you own Nagra and Spectral and top audio note gear, you just know that that is just stuff that's going to last you a lifetime. And yeah, you can create a lot of different interesting sounds and invite all your friends all over to your place. Eat some biscuits, cookies, drink some coffee. Chat about music, put some B.B. King on, or Joe Bonamassa, or Carpenters, or whatever, and just enjoy the music from all the different aspects. And yeah, that was all for today. And remember to like and subscribe. Have a nice day. Bye.